ways in which you can engage with the council and participate in our meetings. To watch or participate in our remote meeting, you may watch council meetings live on Comcast Channel 21 or Frontier Channel 29. You may watch live online at www.everettwa.gov/citycouncil, where you may also watch past meetings. You may call in to listen to the live meeting at any point by dialing 425-616-3920, and the conference ID is 724-887-726#. You may find the public comment registration form on the City of Everett website under the City Council Department. Once you select the register here to provide comment via Zoom link, you'll need to fill out the form completely if you wish to provide a public comment at a future meeting. After the public comment form is submitted, you will receive an email confirmation with the Zoom link and phone number to the meeting. Participants must submit this form at least 30 minutes prior to the meeting. Forms submitted after that time will not receive the Zoom link and number to speak, but may still participate the day of the meeting by submitting comments in writing to council@everettwa.gov. For assistance, please contact the council office at 425-257-8703, or you may email Deb Williams at dwilliams@everettwa.gov. Please note that we do not allow comments on any kind of campaigning, whether for or against ballot measures or candidates running for office. We also do not accept comments focused on personal matters that are unrelated to city business. Outside of our meetings, members of the public are always welcome to contact council members or provide comments or concerns on any matter via email at council@everettwa.gov or by calling the City Council office. Clerk, will you please take the roll?
Council Mayor Franklin.
I'm here.
Councilmember Vogely.
Here.
Councilmember Ryan.
Here.
Councilmember Schwab.
Here.
Councilmember Zarlingo.
Here.
Councilmember Fossey.
Here.
Councilmember Tui.
Here.
President Stonecipher.
Here. I'd like to call on Councilmember Zarlingo to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and I will read the land acknowledgement. The City Council wishes to acknowledge the original inhabitants of this place, the Stohoge people and their successors, the Tulalip tribes. Since time immemorial, they have hunted, fished, gathered on, and taken care of these lands and waters. We respect their sovereignty, their right to self-determination, and honor their sacred spiritual connection with the land and water. We will strive to be honest about our past mistakes and bring about a future that includes their people, stories, and voices to form a more just and equitable society. Now, do I hear a motion for approval of the minutes of February 16th, 2022?
Councilmember Zarlingo so moves.
Your second.
Councilmember Tui seconds the motion.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Clerk, will you please take the roll?
Councilmember Vogely.
Yes.
Councilmember Ryan.
Yes.
Councilmember Schwab.
Yes.
Councilmember Zarlingo.
Yes.
Councilmember Fossey.
Yes.
Councilmember Tui.
Yes.
President Stonecipher.
Yes. And we'll move on to the mayor's report. Good afternoon, Mayor Franklin.
Good afternoon, Council President and council members. I have just a couple of things. First, I'm asking for your concurrence to 2 appointments to our Planning Commission, both for 6-year terms, Demi Chatters and Kevin Ballard.
Do I hear a motion to approve the 2 new planning commissioners?
So moved. Councilmember Tui seconds the motion.
Thank you. Thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve 2 new planning commission members. Clerk, will you please take the roll?
Councilmember Vogely.
Yes.
Councilmember Ryan.
Yes.
Councilmember Schwab.
Yes.
Councilmember Zarlingo.
Yes.
Councilmember Fossey.
Yes.
Councilmember Tui.
Yes.
President Stonecipher.
Yes.
Thank you. And I think those are our last board and commission appointments. It's been a long process, so thanks. And we've got a lot of great new board and commissioners that are going to be serving our city for the next few years. And then I would like to invite Chief Templeman forward to welcome Officer Staton.
Great. Thank you very much, Mayor Franklin, and good afternoon, council members. Dan Templeman with the Police Department. It's my honor today to be able to introduce our most recent graduate from the Washington State Criminal Justice Training Center, that being Jeff Staton. Jeff was born in Bozeman, Montana, and moved to Washington State when he was 6 years old. Jeff grew up in Linwood, graduated from Mount Lake Terrace High School in 1999. He attended Washington State University for 2 years before he moved back home to work full-time for the family business Staton Glass, where he remained employed until he joined the Everett Police Department. Jeff has always respected the law enforcement profession and those who chose it as a career path. He believes his character and his values align with those necessary to be a great officer, and he is excited to serve our community. When choosing a department to work for, Jeff picked Everett PD due to his overall familiarity with the city, our department's excellent reputation and high standards, and the opportunities for career growth. Jeff graduated from the Basic Law Enforcement Academy on February 8th and is excited to begin his field training. He's eager to continue his learning on the street where he can apply these skills while serving the Everett community. Jeff and his wife, Julie, have been married for 12 years, and they have a 10-year-old son named Hayden. They enjoy spending time outdoors, going on hikes, swimming, and playing lacrosse, baseball, and football. And so I present to council Jeff Staton for swearing in. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to accept Jeffrey Staton as the newest member of the Everett Police Department?
Councilmember Toohey moves the motion to accept this new officer.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
Vogely seconds.
We have a motion and a second. Clerk, will you please take the roll?
Councilmember Vogely,
Yes.
Councilmember Ryan,
Yes.
Councilmember Schwab,
Yes.
Councilmember Zarlingo,
Yes.
Councilmember Fosse,
Yes.
Councilmember Toohey,
Yes.
President Joan Cipher.
Yes. And I'm going to have the clerk author the oath of office, but I also wanted to say that normally if we were in person, we would then have an opportunity to shake Officer Staton's hand and wish him some good wishes. So after the oath is administered, I am going to go down the roll so council members can make a comment if they wish to. The clerk, will you administer the oath?
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name, please.
I, Jeff Staton,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I am either a citizen of the United States
that I am either a citizen of the United States
or a lawful permanent resident,
or a lawful permanent resident,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution and laws of the state of Washington,
the Constitution and the laws of the state of Washington,
and the charter and ordinances of the city of Everett,
and charter and ordinances of the city of Everett,
and that I will faithfully, honestly, and impartially
that I will faithfully, honestly, and impartially
perform the duties of police officer of the city of Everett
that I will perform the duties of police officers of the city of Everett
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And now we'll go down the roll and starting with Councilmember Vogely.
Welcome to the team. Good to have you. Totally weird thing to say, but when I was growing up, my parents were Jeff and Julie, so that was like, what? That's all. Welcome. Glad you're here and glad you chose Everett.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Ryan.
Yes, thank you for choosing the Everett Police Department, and I wish you the very best. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Schwab.
Hello, and thank you for choosing Everett and choosing one of the best departments in the region. I'm very grateful for your commitment to our community and very thankful for for this opportunity for you, and I hope you have a long and rewarding career.
Thank you.
Thank you. Council members Arlingo.
Well, welcome, Officer Staton, and thanks for joining our great city. Also like to congratulate Chief Templeman on recruiting to fill open positions. The success in this is really gratifying. And I also was hearing recently about a new recruiting officer, Daniel Ballos, for their department. Glad to hear about that. I had the pleasure of meeting him last fall. So, Officer Staton, I think you're joining a great team and well led, and I look forward to getting a chance to meet you in person.
Yes, thank you.
Councilmember Fossey.
Thanks. Yeah, so I would definitely like to second what Council members Arlingo and Council member Schwab had said. Welcome to our city. It's a best place to work, in my opinion. And I look forward to actually meeting you in person at some point.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Toohey.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate what everybody has said and really welcome you to the city and to our department, our police department. I know it's a great department, and so we look forward to meeting you in person, and thanks again for choosing Everett.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. And I would just like to echo all the comments that were made. Congratulate you for joining the Everett Police Department. I know you're joining a great team, and we'll look forward to and appreciate your service on behalf of the citizens and residents of our community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll just add my congratulations as well. And just a small correction, you're actually joining the best department, not one of the best departments. But we're really grateful to have you, and thank you for your service. And with that, I have no further comments today. Thanks.
Thank you. And we'll move on to council comments and liaison reports. Councilmember Vogely.
Pardon me. Thank you. If I go out, I'm sorry, my internet connection is unstable, so I apologize in advance. I was able to attend the Cascade View neighborhood meeting, and it's fairly exciting. There's a bunch of new members and new leadership, and lots of questions being asked, and just a lot of engagement and dialogue, and that's very exciting. So kudos to Cascade View. And also I was able to go for Councilmember Fossey to the Historical Commission last night. And that was exciting because I've been missing them, and they're cool people. And there are some new people that I don't know, but there were some oldies but goodies. And it was very neat because they are working diligently on their roles and procedures. And, you know, it takes a long time. There's a lot of dead air, but they're getting the work done, and I am impressed. And that is all I have for right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Ryan.
Thank you. Good afternoon. This week's been a little bit quiet on the my role as a city council member, but I did have a chance to do the pit count yesterday, the point in time count with Snohomish County, and partnered up with Councilmember Megan Dunn to tour around the area. We were primarily over along Evergreen, kind of by Casino Road area, and counted a number of people. And I definitely, I was writing down folks' information on a clipboard, and my hands were so cold. And I was thinking about how I had only been outside for about 10 or 15 minutes to talk with folks and give them a warming kit, and they were likely going to be spending the night on the street. And so I just wanted to give a friendly reminder that on these cold nights, there are some cold weather shelters that are open, but they're not always accessible by all of our neighbors that are sleeping on the street. So if you get a chance to support a local group that's doing work with street level work with helping people make it through these freezing cold nights, just a reminder to help them out if you get a chance. And then in full transparency, I'll be meeting with folks from the administrative team working on ARPA projects tomorrow through my role and chair of the Economic Cultural Vitality Committee. So at last week's meeting, we had the briefing on ARPA projects. And so I reached out to administration to ask for a meeting on ways that the Economic and Cultural Vitality Committee can be a good partner and a good sounding board and working through different ARPA projects and ARPA suggestions. So we'll be meeting on that tomorrow and be happy to report on that at next week's meeting, and also to work on incorporating the other committee members to future discussions as well, so that we can all work together on that. So then looking forward to have the Beverly Park, Pinehurst Beverly Park Neighborhood Committee tonight, Port Gardner tomorrow, Council of Neighborhoods next week. So it's going to be pretty busy and lots of fun stuff to talk about. So looking forward to those reports in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilmember Schwab.
Yes, hello. Just a couple of quick things about the Legislative Committee. The House and Senate have both released their capital and transportation budgets. There seem to be a lot more resources there for some of the projects that can benefit the city. So our staff and Deputy Mayor Harper have been monitoring pretty tight, so more to come on that. I was also interviewed by a future reporter, AJ Todd, who is earning his citizenship merit badge from the Boy Scouts. He is a junior high person at King's, and he interviewed me. He was tough. The papers could learn a few lessons from, so good job. Shout out to AJ. I also visited site 2 of a potential pallet house location at the Faith Family Village is what they're calling it. I am very encouraged by the potential for putting that's the site where the eight structures for single women and families. I think there's just a lot of potential there. And I love the approach that they're taking, and that is working with the neighbors in the community there. So more meetings to come. So really encouraged about how all that process. So shout out to the mayor's staff for facilitating that also. And then also I met with some neighbors at Madison Elementary, and they were just looking at some safety concerns and some homeless activity and some other gang related issues. They just wanted a conversation. And so that was a good FYI. So that's all report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Zarlingo.
Well, just a couple of quick things. As Councilmember Ryan said, we'll be attending together tonight the Pinehurst Beverly Park neighborhood. Looking forward to that. They're going back now to, for the second time, I think, a hybrid, partly in person and partly online. And Councilmember Ryan and I split that neighborhood. Also, for those who are interested, the Parks Board is open to comment period for the potential of the powerboat races at Silver Lake this summer in June. So there's a comment period open now, and I think through part of March. Their decision, the Parks Board will be making a recommendation to either do 1 day of the powerboat racing in June, or 2 days, or no days. So if you've got opinions and interest in that, please get back to the Park Board on that. And actually, in slightly related things, we'll be meeting this afternoon with the chair of the Quality of Life Committee. Liz Vogley chairs that committee, and she's called the meeting there. We'll be talking about local scale stuff like parks and larger scale things like the Climate Action Plan. And that's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Fossey.
Thanks. I don't have too many comments this evening, but I did want to thank Councilmember Ryan for your work on the point in time count, and for kind of that sobering reminder of what our unsheltered neighbors are dealing with right now, and that we still have a lot of work to be done in that area. So thank you for bringing that up. And then I also will be scheduling time with the Faith Family Village, as Councilmember Schwab has already visited, coming up. And I just wanted to reiterate my enthusiasm for the new members of the Planning Commission. And I think those are excellent choices, and they will bring a really good perspective to the commission. So I'm really excited about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Toohey.
Yeah, I just have one reminder that the Housing and Homelessness Committee meets tomorrow morning at 9. So we look forward to meeting with Julie at 9 o'clock. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. And I have no liaison report and no comments this afternoon. Do we have an update from administration?
Nothing this afternoon, Council President Stonecipher. Thank you.
thank you. We'll move on to city attorney comments. Mr. Hall, what do you have for us today?
I don't have anything to report, and there is no executive session. Thank you.
Thank you. Deb Williams, have we received any comments from the community for public comment?
Good afternoon, President Stonecipher. I've received no written comment. I have one community member wishing to speak under public comment. Mr. Bisman, please unmute yourself. Please turn on your camera if possible. Please remember to limit your comments to 3 minutes, and at 30 seconds, I will ask you to wrap up.
Hello.
We can hear you, Mr. Bisman.
There you go. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. You want me to go ahead?
Please go ahead.
Yes, please.
Oh, sorry. I'm grateful for the opportunity to address you all today. Let me start by saying that I'm not here representing myself, but a community of some 100 seniors in South Everett. We're a mixed group of individuals and couples, some of whom reside here by necessity and some by choice. We are trying to live out the rest of our lives in peace and safety by choosing to live in a 55-plus community of apartment homes, a 5-story building built just 7 years ago at 8920 Evergreen Way called the Reserve at Everett. This is not an assisted care facility, but a regular apartment building which is advertised as offering some senior-specific amenities, 2 of which are safety features and controlled entry. The complex is made up a number of studio and 1-bedroom apartments, as well as some 2-bedroom apartments. Also included is a number of handicapped equipped apartments. Many of the residents are retired, while others of us are still very much employed and working full-time or part-time schedules. Myself and my spouse are both employed full-time as security officers assigned to the Port of Seattle. The longtime residents who have been here report that the building originally was well-run, maintained, and secure. For the last 5 years, however, the problems have grown increasingly disappointing, and especially since COVID have become intolerable and downright frightening to most of the residents. We have been plagued with break-ins to both the building and the cars in our parking lot. We have suffered thousands and thousands of dollars worth of stolen UPS, FedEx, and Amazon package thefts taken from in front of our doors and on our doorsteps, and also in our mailroom, I guess, which is interestingly unsecured. We've had drug addicts shooting up and crashing in our stairwells, not outside, mind you, inside our supposedly secure building. The management is aware of these problems for years now and blame their inability to solve them on COVID restrictions. Our emergency entrance and loading zone doors have been busted open for months and are pleased to have them fixed, have been met with excuse after excuse. Our elevators have also been broken down and left unrepaired for more than a week at a time. And on one occasion, the last time our main elevator was out, it was not restored until we finally organized and held a meeting and formed the tenant association, interestingly enough. This is the only elevator that paramedics can use to fit their gurney in. Aiding to that picture and causing some additional concern is the fact that we have handicapped residents who are on carts or on walkers living above the 2nd and 3rd floors and on the 3rd floors. Recently, there was last year, there was a fire here. Someone started a fire in their apartment, in their kitchen, and the elevators were shut down, and all of these handicapped people were huddled at the stairwells, scared to death, wondering how to get out of the building. These are things which we have decided to address. We also come to City Council for some guidance. If you can direct us to the proper authorities, or perhaps those that might be of aid to us in figuring out what exactly is the building's legal responsibility for having such a community and advertising a safe, handicapped accessible building as well. That's all I can say for now, except I'm pretty tired because last night I was up all night. We had another break-in. The police were again called, and this time successfully arrested an individual who had been breaking into the building repeatedly and squatting in a vacant apartment.
Thank you very much.
That's all I had to say.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bisman. And I know that you also have been working with our police department as well. President Stonecipher, that is all I have to speak at this time.
Thank you, and thank you for coming, Mr. Bisman. I am going to ask administration if someone can make contact with Mr. Bisman and help him understand. It sounds like he's already working with the police department, but it may be someone from the building inspection department may need to be involved in this as well.
Thank you, Council President Stonecipher. Nick Harper on behalf of administration. We will be sure to reach out to Mr. Bisman and follow up.
Yeah, let's make sure. This sounds like a untenable and unsafe situation for seniors living in our community. And I see Councilmember Vogely, your hand is raised. What?
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Bisman, for bringing this to our attention. I have heard about these types of issues one too many times, not just at your apartment complex, which is in my neighborhood. I pass by all the time, and I've even visited somebody, but that's not the point. I would like to make a motion. I would like to call for, I don't have all the words because I wasn't planning on speaking about this today, but I've talked about a rental registry, and I would like to look into that, and I would like somebody to second that motion so that we can work on getting a rental registry within the city of Everett so we can take care of issues like this, because our codes and policies do not have enough gusto and money behind them, actually. So if anybody would like to work on that with me, or let me go it alone, but just give me a second, I would love it.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Councilmember Vogely and Councilmember Fossey, we have done in the past quite a lot of work on a rental registry. We actually had at one point on my time on council, maybe 5 years ago, we had an ordinance, I believe, ready to be enacted. And I would ask that rather than working with Mr. Hall at this point, we resurrect that, and perhaps we have the planning chair, who is Councilmember Fossey, and your committee take a look at what we have already done and kind of resurrect that and see if it, dust it off and see what may need to happen from there. But starting with just sort of a deep dive on what we have, and I would ask if administration could help assemble those documents. I know they're there because it was literally on an action agenda before it was at one point tabled indefinitely or pulled for future discussion.
Council
David
President
Hall, yes.
This has come up at least twice. It came up also 10 years ago, and it was looked at in a fair bit of detail, and there was a proposal at that time. So I'll talk with administration. Obviously, they're the lead on this, but maybe we can put something together giving you a history of how this has come up in the past, what the pros and cons were, why it was rejected in the past, and what the current state is. The law has changed since it first came up in terms of what we can do in requiring property owners to put their buildings on a registry and pay a yearly inspection fee. So there's some updating to do on that, but there has been a lot of work done on this in the past, and I'll talk with the mayor and administration and see what the most sensible way to get back to you on this is.
That would be great. Thank you. Does that work for you, Councilmember Fossey and Vogely?
Most of that works for me. This is a policy issue, and so I would like it to be a policy issue. It's not for administration to figure out what we are going to do. So please do find us the 10 years ago and 5 years ago information, and we will certainly deep dive into it and look forward to working collaboratively with administration. Thank you.
Yes, and my memory may be failing me. I may be thinking of the 10 years ago. So if I am, there may be one, but there is a body of work there that we definitely can resurrect. So thank you for that. More to come. And we had no other future public comment. And so we are now going to take up our consent agenda. Do I hear a motion for the 4 consent items?
Councilmember Tui moves the 4 consent items.
Councilmember Schwab, second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second for the consent agenda. Clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Vogely,
Yes.
Councilmember Ryan,
Yes.
Councilmember Schwab,
Yes.
Councilmember Zarlingo,
Yes.
Councilmember Fosse,
Yes.
Councilmember Tui,
Yes.
President Stone Cipher.
Yes. We will move on to our action agenda. Item 5, concur with the recommendation of the Lodging Tax Advisory Committee and members of the Budget Finance Committee to accept the long-term obligations of the hotel motel tax listed above and to allocate grant funding as designated in an amount not to exceed $170,000 and authorize the mayor to sign the contracts. Do I hear a motion? Oh, Councilmember Tui.
Yes, I will recuse myself from this item as I work for one of the potential recipients, even though my income is not related at all to the grant.
Thank you. Councilmember Tui is recused from voting on this. Do I hear a motion to approve?
Councilmember Ryan, so moves.
Second, Councilmember Zarlingo.
We have a motion and a second. We're going to go down the roll to see if there are any questions or comments, starting with Councilmember Vogely.
At this time, I do not have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't have my list in front of me here. Councilmember Ryan.
No questions. I'm just really looking forward to all these great events coming up and looking forward to celebrating Everett again this summer. Thanks.
Councilmember Schwab.
No questions. Thank you.
Councilmember Zarlingo.
Yeah, looking at the list of events, this kind of a reminder of what all we've been missing. So as with Councilmember Ryan, I'm looking forward to this.
Thank you. Councilmember Fosse.
No questions or comments. Thank you.
And I will just say, as the chair of the Lodging Tax Advisory Committee, we had quite a difficult job ahead of us this year because the funding for this for these events is down substantially because it is derived from the hotel motel head tax that we collect on hotel rooms and hotel stays. So there were a lot of very difficult decisions to be made, and certainly wished that we had more funding to fund projects to a greater degree. And hopefully these projects will all be very successful, and we'll have more hotel stays that will replenish this pot of funds so that we will have more money to give out in the future. With that, clerk, will you please take the roll?
Councilmember Vogely,
Yes.
Councilmember Ryan,
Yes.
Councilmember Schwab,
Yes.
Councilmember Zarlingo,
Yes.
Councilmember Fosse,
Yes.
and Councilmember Tui, who is recused. President Stone Cipher.
Yes. And Councilmember Tui, you'll rejoin us. Item 6, Council Bill 2202-02, third and final reading. Adopt the proposed ordinance amending and closing the special construction fund entitled Everett Fire Administration Building Tenant Improvements Project, Fund 342, Program 027, as established by ordinance number 3661-19 and amended by ordinance 3764-20. Do I hear a motion?
Councilmember Schwab makes a motion to support.
Vogely seconds.
We have a motion and a second. Let's see if we have any questions or comments, starting with Councilmember Vogely.
My goodness, I do not. Thanks for doing all the work, everybody.
Thank you. Councilmember Ryan.
No questions or comments. Thanks.
Councilmember Schwab.
Yes, after working in that building for 10 years before I retired, I want to say what an amazing job that the city did, considering the cost restraints. It was nice to put a little historic reflection in the building, and it turned out to be a very nice project.
Thank you. Councilmember Zarlingo.
Second, what Councilmember Schwab said, I had looked at that online and then driven by and not realized that it was a kind of a nod to the history of that there. So that's a neat thing to preserve that, and I'm happy to see that improved.
Thank you. Councilmember Fossey.
No questions or comments. Thank you.
Councilmember Tui.
No questions or comments. Thank you.
And I just I want to agree that I'm really pleased that the city did decide to retain this building and renovate it in such a way that sort of owns up to the historical nature of it. There were times that we had considered selling this building and just moving fire into various other different configurations. So I think the investment that we're making in this kind of interesting, unique historic building is well worth it. With that, will you please take the roll?
Councilmember Vogely,
Yes.
Councilmember Ryan,
Yes.
Councilmember Schwab,
Yes.
Councilmember Zarlingo,
Yes.
Councilmember Fossey,
Yes.
Councilmember Tui,
Yes.
President Stone Cipher.
Yes. Item 7, Council Bill 2202-03, third and final reading. Adopt an ordinance closing a special improvement project entitled Phil Johnson Ball Fields Renovation, Fund 354, Program 054, as established by ordinance number 3589-18 and amended by ordinance number 3677-19. Do I hear a motion?
Councilmember Ryan, so moves.
Vogely seconds.
Thank you. Let's see if we have any questions or comments, starting with Councilmember Vogely.
Again, sorry for the video display and lack of it. I just want to say I can't wait to go see it because I haven't actually stopped by, but I used to go by a lot. So I hope it's wonderful. I'm sure it is, and glad that it's done. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Ryan.
I actually did get a chance to go by yesterday. I was on the route for the pit count that we did, and I was admiring the amazingness of the field. It was really well done. It looks great. I know it's going to be a great anchor in our community for recreational sports, and also wanted to give a shout out that it came in under budget. So great job, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Schwab.
No comments. Thank you.
Councilmember Zarlingo.
No comments. Thank you.
Councilmember Fossey.
No comments. Thank you.
Councilmember Tui.
No comments, thanks, or questions.
And I have no questions or comments. Clerk, will you please take the roll?
Councilmember Vogely,
Yes.
Councilmember Ryan,
Yes.
Councilmember Schwab,
Yes.
Councilmember Zarlingo,
Yes.
Councilmember Fossey,
Yes.
Councilmember Tui,
Yes.
President Stone Cipher.
Yes. And now we have, are there any questions on the 3 items that are on for proposed action? Item 8 has been read, but I do need to read items 9 and 10 into the record. So I'll read those now and then we'll see if we have any questions. Council Bill 2202-05, first reading. Adopt an ordinance creating a special improvement project entitled Citywide Bicycle Wayfinding, Fund 303, Program 126. The third and final reading will be on March 9th of 2022. And item 10 is Council Bill 2202-06, first reading. Adopt an ordinance creating a special improvement project entitled Fulton Street Bicycle Pedestrian Corridor, Fund 303, Program 125. And that third and final reading will also be on March 9th. So do we have any questions on the proposed action items? Please unmute yourself if so and make yourself known.
This is Councilmember Vogely.
Thank you.
I just want to hear more about it. I know that there was a bit of a discussion when putting this on the agenda that maybe it would be better to hear more about it next week during an evening meeting, and that's fine. But I think that the public will be very excited about this and want to hear more. I've heard a lot about it from the TAC, but the Transportation Advisory Committee, but let's get it on record more.
Great.
So
And Are you referring to the wayfinding item 9 or both?
9
okay.
and 10.
Okay,
Thank you.
great. We will make sure that we get some administration can give a little detailed description of what these two things would do. I see Lori Cummings coming on here. You're muted.
Yes, staff are happy to provide. So, am I unmuted now? Yes. So,
Yes.
Short briefings next week at council.
That would be wonderful. Thank you. So those will come on a future meeting agenda. Now we will go to our briefing agenda. These items come before the City Council serving as a council committee of the whole and are likely to be scheduled at a future meeting. Item 11 is adopt resolution concerning the 2022 Community Development Block Grants Home 2060 Affordable Housing Trust Fund allocations and annual action plan. And I think Kimbra Landry presenting for us today.
Yes. Hello, Councilmember Stonecipher. Hi. So just give me one quick second and I'm going to set up my PowerPoint presentation. And hopefully everybody should see that now. I see a nod, so that's good. Okay, so again, so good afternoon, Mayor and City Council. My name is Kimbra Landry. I'm the Community Development Manager for the city's Community Development Division. I may be familiar if you were attending last month's meeting for Human Needs. I'm here to brief you today on the 2022 Community Development Funding Resolution that includes our federal and state funds. So without further ado, this slide is going to walk us through some of the background. Our annual funding since 1976, the city has received annual allocations of federal and state funds for community development projects. Funds support either public service or non-public service projects. Service projects are typically provided by nonprofit agencies and can include activities such as rental housing support or mental health counseling. Common non-service projects are land acquisition costs, public facility or infrastructure improvements, and housing rehabilitation. For funding types, we're going to first go into our federal types. We have 2 federal awards that the city receives each year, and that is the Community Development Block Grant or CDBG funds, and then the Home Program funds known as HOME. Both are regulated grant funds under HUD. CDBG funds are awarded directly to the city through HUD, and this year we expect to receive approximately $850,000, which is typical for our annual award. CDBG funds can be used to support administration expenses, public service projects, and non-public service projects. The significant caveat with this fund source is that they cannot be used for new housing construction. The second federal award that we receive is the Home Program. These funds are directly awarded to Snohomish County from HUD, and then the city receives a direct allocation of that award each year. And we receive that through the interlocal agreement that we have established. This year, we expect to receive our typical award of $350,000. And home funds can be used for non-service housing projects, such as land acquisition, rehabilitation, and this one can be used for new housing construction. The other funding type that we have that we'll be looking at for today is funds for our Affordable Housing Trust Funds or AHTF funds. Those are through a state policy that allows us to receive an allocation through an agreement with Snohomish County again. And funds from this source are collected through recording fees. And typically we receive up to $140,000 for this funding source. And HTF funds can be used for service or operational costs for shelters. So again, this is just a visual representation of all the narrative that I've gone through for the previous slides. And this just really, again, kind of encompasses what we see as an eligible activity that supports each priority, or I mean, it supports each funding source, sorry. And again, CDBG funds can be used for a variety. You see that the most possibilities for activities are under CDBG, but not new housing. So again, that's very important with CDBG is you cannot do new housing units. Home can be used for non-service housing, including new construction. And then HTF again is for public service and operational costs for emergency shelters. And on this slide, we have a revisit of our community development priorities. Again, these are established under Resolution 7705. This is guiding our community development funding. Same priorities that help to guide the human needs funding discussions as well. And priorities are still focusing on housing, basic services, and homelessness. And here are the various activities that support each priority as listed. So again, just touching base on the public process for these funds, which is primarily for these funding sources regulated by the federal requirements we have from HUD, because those are most strenuous. Again, so the Citizen Advisory Committee holds a public hearing to establish priority needs. The needs support not only the fund commitments for the year, but also the long-range federal funding plan that we submit to HUD, which is known as our consolidated plan. And then following the adoption of the needs, funding opens for application submissions, committee members review the applications, and then come together for another public hearing to establish funding recommendations based on the proposals submitted. This, I want to just touch base a little bit more on CDBG, and that's because we are a direct recipient from HUD, and CDBG is our largest funding source. And so it guides a lot of our funding and public process. A key component of the CDBG program is submitting what we call an annual action plan, and that's submitted directly to HUD. The annual action plan essentially tells HUD how we're going to be spending for our funding for the upcoming year. And this is due to HUD every single spring and must align not only with our funding needs, but also Snohomish County's funding calendar as well. And that is because of that home interlocal agreement that I mentioned previously. The annual action plan runs on a mid-year fiscal cycle with the program year starting on July 1st and ending June 30th the following year. And as mentioned with the previous slides, the city does have a long-range guiding document called the Consolidated Plan that covers a 5-year period about how we expect to expend our federal funds. The annual action plan supports 1 year of that document, and it has to align with the goals that were adopted by HUD. The Consolidated Plan currently runs from 2020 until 2024. And of course, we are working on you will be discussing the 2022 Annual Action Plan. So mid-year point for that long-range plan that we have. Quick visual representation of how our funding is supporting our priorities. We see that for public services, we have a large component going towards housing efforts with basic services and homelessness, both splitting the remainder at about 25% each, give or take. And then for non-public service funding, we see that housing again has a larger share of the funding priority pie, with capital investments and shelter following in second and third place respectively. This is where we see a lot of also of our other funding sources, then not just CDBG, but our HTF and home funds are in this snapshot as well. Annual next steps will be to bring this back to City Council for the resolution action on March 2nd. That is a typo on the slide. It is not March 3rd, it is March 2nd. And of course, then this will kick off then our program year, which will start on July 1st. So at this time, I will answer any questions that there may be.
Great, thank you so much, Kimber, for that very nicely organized and detailed description. Let's see if council members have any questions, starting with Councilmember Vogely.
I should have many questions and they're not coming to me right now. So Kimbra, thank you. And I'll let others ask the questions that I likely want to.
Thank you. Councilmember Ryan.
Thank you, Kimbra, so much, and thanks for your hard work on all of this. I was hoping you could help with clarifying the 2022 community development priorities between housing, basic services, and homelessness. There's a lot of overlap between those three buckets, and I would venture to guess and assume that it might be difficult to differentiate between which bucket certain services go into. So I was hoping you could go into a little bit more detail about like how that's tallied and just what kind of it looks like on the back end for you guys to work on that.
Yeah, so I believe I am understanding the question that you're really kind of asking about how we're delineating that certain projects support certain priorities and then subsequent activities that support that priority, correct?
Yes, thanks for saying it better.
I just want to make sure. So it actually, that's a very good question. We actually really kind of dive into that when staff is initially doing application review. Because of course we're trying to look at, who is really benefiting from that, who is the population that the program or service is designed to support. I think that there is, on a very high surface level, there's probably some echoes with some of the activities supporting. It could be for mental health, that can be something that supports both priority groups of both, basic services as well as homelessness. But when we're really looking at which activity supports each, it's who the group is, who the demographic is, it's really benefiting from the service. And then the delivery and mission, again, of the organization and agency that's helping to support that service. I think that revisiting these priorities and needs and looking at, if there's any overlap is definitely something that we were looking to do in the future anyway. And so being able to have that discussion and bring it back to council is something that we could do at a later time if that's of interest.
I think that adequately answers my question. I don't think any future presentation would be necessary, but yeah, thank you so much for all your hard work. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Councilmember Schwab.
No, that was no questions. That was very thorough. Thank you very much.
Councilmember Zerlingo.
Kimbra, thank you for the very clear presentation. That brings me up to speed a little more on this, and I appreciate the importance of keeping track of and up with all of these annual requirements to get the federal funding that we appreciate so much. So that is not a simple thing to do, and clearly something we want to get right. Thank you again.
Thank you, Councilmember Fossey.
This might be out of your scope, but first, thank you for the awesome presentation. This is really interesting stuff. Since we're a recipient of the CDBG under HUD, are we subject to the affirmatively furthering fair housing rules, or is that no longer in place?
That's a great question. That's a really, really fantastic question. So that actually is a supporting report, typically that goes in line with our consolidated plan. At the time that we did our consolidated plan, that was in 2019, 2020. That requirement actually been pulled back. And so instead, we did an analysis of impediments to fair housing report. We did not do the AFFH report to support that law. We did something similar instead. So the impediments and the results from that report were not only included in our consolidated plan, but those were also included in the discussion with the housing action plan that's been going on as well. So now that that regulation is now back in place, because that was taken away and now it's back, then we will be looking to revisit that when we do the consolidated plan again in the next 2 to 3 years. We're going to be looking at having to revisit the entire consolidated plan effort every few years. So that will come up again in the future for sure. Great question.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Councilmember Toohey.
Yeah, I don't have any more questions, but Kimbra, that was an excellent presentation, and it was so well laid out that I think it was just super, especially for the new council members, but also for me, it just, really clarified how, all the different buckets and how we prioritize. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you. And I have no further questions or comments. I agree with Councilmember Toohey. It's nice to see all these come forward together so we kind of get the lay of the land from a little bit more comprehensive way, and also reduces our briefings down to one. And so we will look forward to seeing you back on the 2nd and acting on that at that time. That brings us to the end of our agenda. As noted at the start of the meeting and provided on the screen, you may contact Deb Williams in the council office for instructions on watching, listening to, or participating in our weekly meeting. And she can be reached by phone or at 425-257-8703 or by email at dwilliams@everettwa.gov. Of course, you can always email council@everettwa.gov, and that will get to Deb Williams as well. With no further business and no executive session, we are now adjourned.